me daddy.
I'd rather not.
Alexa, what's gooning?
I don't have an answer for that.
This one over here has gotten in controversy.
I have almost been canceled over this topic, so I'm scared.
So before you get canceled, roll the opening.
Hello!
Welcome back to
What's Safe Word?
I'm Am.
I'm Mr. Christopher. I think. Think about that for a second.
That's some goon energy if I've ever seen it right there. And welcome back to What's a Safer. Today we are talking about gooning. It is still Bation May, and we've still got a lot of spunk to get onto the internet.
Woohoo! Spunk.
You got some real spunk. We can't say the other word, I don't think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, we're gonna talk about masticating. And we know that you guys love to consume content, so how about some content all about gooning?
I'm gonna go bait in the goon shed.
I'm a master's in this.
The masters in
I
masticating.
have a master's in masticating.
Now, in more recent years, the terms gooning and baiting has been very popularized by the drag.
Gooning and baiting in the bed.
But it leads us to question what even is gooning?
And do drag queens bait?
Clickbait, maybe.
I thought they tucked. Isn't that the opposite of gooning?
Is tucking just clickbaiting? But the actual definition of gooning, in its most simplified form, is that it's a state usually achieved after a prolonged edging session. And it's described as getting to such a heightened pleasure state where you're almost in this hypnotic, hazy, gooned out experience.
Stroke, 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 stroke. I'm sorry, I'm gooned out.
And in more recent podcasts that we've done, we actually did a video on edging, on baiting, on long-term sexual pleasure, in which we did touch on gooning just a little bit, and the actual gooning community got a little upset because somebody was a little kink-shamey.
I was not king shamey. I said I don't have the time. I don't have the time. I don't have the time.
Sounds like you got your comeuppance. No, you weren't king-shamey, but your opinion and your perspective was just different than what most people in the gooning community would consider sex positive.
That's my opinion!
And that's totally fine. We're not king-shaming ever on the show.
No.
We just have perspectives that might be a little bit different from yours, but that does not stop us from wanting to dive deeper into a topic. And so today, we are gonna be covering gooning, answering your questions, doing a little bit of a history, and telling you how to get into that wonderful goon state that's almost hypnotic.
Jack as long as you want. I don't care.
Who's Jack?
Just Jack.
So let's get into your questions and get into a deep dive of what gooning is. Daddy explosion, please.
I'm gonna go bait in the goon shed.
Oh, honey. Oh, honey.
So I asked y'all on social media if you had questions about gooning, and the first question says, about what?
See, this is why we need to educate on what it is. I didn't even know what it was.
And what I really love is, like, there's this goon face that people will refer to when it comes to gooning.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I feel like it's more like eyes rolled back, like pleasure, kind of like, Yeah, that's one of them, because they're not focused on how their face looks. We're like, you know, in our own heads, focused on how we look, standing, sitting. When you're gooned out, you are gooned out. Sometimes you see drooling, sometimes you see tongue out, sometimes you see smiles. A little like yeah. You're doing great. Are you gooning right now? Turns out the term itself actually refers to the term gone or gone, G-O-N-E, which means simpleton, back in the 1580s. And it was meant for someone who was a bit more simpler, a little more dull, or you know?
Okay, just quit antagonizing the gooners. Don't.
No,
call
I'm
them
telling you
dull
the
and
history.
simple.
No, I'm not saying that. Goon baiting also refers to World War II practices, in which it's an interaction between the prisoner and the guard or oppressor, where the prisoner is aiming to ensure he is not endangered, and they're playing mind games or doing actions to confuse their oppressor.
And is also used in 1938 for a term for hired thugs.
Now, the popularity of the term and the more resurgence of it comes from the show and the cartoon Popeye. Do you remember Popeye?
Not the Goonies?
No.
Really?
No.
Of course I remember Popeye. That's my generation. I am what I am.
No, I don't want any yams, thank you.
No.
I just had lunch.
Popeye the Sailor Man. Hoot, hoot.
Wasn't he into spinach, not yams?
Well, that made him stronger. He'd crush a can of spinach.
Well, then what the f are you talking about yams for? And they started using the term goon to refer to an island within the show, where, of course, there were a bunch of kind of more himbo-y characters, large, meaty fists.
Yeah, Brutus.
Hairy fists that are...
Pow!
Oh, yeah.
Pow!
Okay.
But maybe he was a gooner because he was dating olive oil, which makes a great lube.
It was actually in the comic strips in 1933 where the goons, including notably Alice the Goon, were top-heavy Neanderthal creatures with tufts of hair and their own inseparable language. Sometimes allies and sometimes adversaries in Popeye, but they did live on the whole island of the goons.
Wait, tufts of hair where?
On their like fists and stuff, I think.
Oh, they had
very
had
neat.
hairy palms.
Yeah, from masturbating.
From masturbating too much.
It's a myth.
It's true.
No, it's a myth.
If you masturbate too much, you get hairy palms.
No, you just need to eat more spinach.
You become a goon.
So fast forward to more current times, we see it used as a term that has to refer to essentially jerking off for long periods of time. Some people refer to edging, some people refer to even this meditative state. And I think it should be noted, this is not just for men, but for whatever reason, all the definitions usually refer around penises and men, and that's, come on guys, come on guys. Come on guys. But you don't have to be a guy. I so even asked, where did the funny faces come from? What's the history behind that? And I don't think there's a history as to why people make those faces. I think that's just a kind of a normal, fun, goofy reaction that people take when they get into that really kind of dumb, sexual, meditative space that is gooning. You're giving a lot of face here, serving face.
I got
and
a lot
goon.
of face.
And you did it at my birthday.
And you did it at my birthday dinner.
As the person keeps edging their genitals, they essentially get into that form of trance where they almost feel one with their genitals. And it's not a matter of so much getting off as much as your genitals are providing so much pleasure from the prolonged state that you've almost kind of created this lock where you don't get off until you really, really want to.
So you're hypnotized by your junk.
Hypno is a part of gooning, actually, it turns out, for some people. Interesting. Why are you rocking?
I don't know, because you hypnotized me with this.
Whoa! Are we on Popeye's boat?
Yeah.
Okay. Whew. Oh, I'm getting seasick.
Sponge crunchy crunchy.
And this came within the thread from a bunch of different people. Why are people into it?
Because they have a lot of time on their hands. Yeah, because that was my question. Because I don't do it myself, just because I don't have the time.
Well, you don't even like edging, though.
I don't. It's just this motion. I'm usually going, okay, get off. To
yourself?
No, to anyone.
Oh, well, no, but this is a very, so here's the thing is like people get into this because it's more than just edging. It's more than just jerking off. Mastication May is absolutely a thing. And to that, some people will even call gooning narcissistic or selfish, but I think it's absolutely the opposite. This is a state of almost tantric sex and meditation for some people. For me, like hypno, I absolutely see there's a connection there with the gooning because you're put in this almost heightened state where pleasure is all just up here.
It's all in the mind, you know.
And also a little down there, but you're not jerking off to completion. You're getting in a very zen state where you're finding your body, you're figuring out what makes you go, oh, and you're turning yourself on for hours at a time. And when I say hours, I mean hours.
And it's probably one of the safest forms of sex.
Yeah, especially during COVID, gooning saw a spike, especially on the websites like Bait World, where gooning and masturbation is very high, because people were able to do it at home, online, with other people. Well, I actually talked to a few gooners when researching for this episode, and one of the big points that they brought up were there are so many communities and sub-communities that provide this almost brotherhood, sisterhood, just community where you can be yourself, find the sex positivity that you weren't allowed to have in your early life or teenage years because people are so negative about sex. And they find these sub-communities. There's gooner furs, so furries. There's diaper gooners. There's straight gooners that just like to goon out together. And while even then, they don't care if you're gay. They just want to get off together and get into that heightened state. It's fascinating. And hey, even himbo goons.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
I wore this specifically.
Because you're a himbo goon?
Well, not right now, but give me a few hours.
I'm just picturing a fur gooner. Goony
Gooning?
Gooner? Ferner.
Next question, which comes from Sebastian, who says, how long do I have to even to become a gooner, get into that gooning state? The limit does not exist.
The limit does not exist. The limit does not exist.
When you get your masters in it, that's how long.
Could take a few years then. Oh my god, a gooning that lasted years? For real though, many people express that Edging is where you hit about 15 minutes to 30 minutes, but anything over an hour where you get into that heightened state could be gooning. And some people will even express that they do it for multiple hours. In fact, there are even masturbate-a-thons where people are literally trying to achieve the longest ejaculation or the longest jerk-off, where people get awards, and some people go upwards of 10 hours, 12, even 14, just masturbating.
See, and this is, I'm not being shamey, but who can have an erection for 10 hours?
When you get into that heightened state, and people do use things like aids, of course, like cock rings, for instance, and of course lube, but they're just in a heightened state where they're stimulated, or maybe even overstimulated in some instances, to get them into that headspace. I absolutely understand that. As someone who gets into hypno for 1 to 2 hours sometimes, you can be aroused once you've unlocked that inner brain. Like there's like a little click, and then you just turn it on. Click, and then you just turn it on.
See, and that I marvel at that. I don't think I've ever been hard for longer than 20 minutes in my life.
That's not true.
Actually, no, that's not the truth.
30.
Fine, 30.
30.
And I think part of what really helps some people get into it is that meditative headspace. They literally learn how to kind of turn off their ejaculation until they want to get to that spot. Which leads us to our next question from Indy, who asks, any tips about it? Anytime I try to goon, I end up coming before getting into the zone.
Same.
So would you like some pointers?
Yeah, teach me. Are Buddhist baiters? Because they're in that meditative state.
Focus. Focus. Tips
See,
on
this
gooning.
is
No,
why
no, no, no,
I
no.
can't be a gooner. I can't focus. So you know the best way to goon?
I hope you're gonna tell me.
Undo your zipper.
Okay. Because today we're working in collaboration with Zipper Magazine, and they're doing a whole Bation May month and focusing on gooners this week. So we wanted to talk a little bit about gooners and want to ask you guys to check out Zipper Magazine. Again, zippermagazine.com. They are a publication that is working to make sure that sex ed is accessible and is doing it with the kink and BDSM community in mind. And they're not only a kink positive organization, but an organization that's working with clips for sale to make sex ed possible all over the internet. So thank you again, Zipper Magazine, for asking us to work with y'all on this. Go check them out in the link down below, and don't be a goon. Or do.
Wait, can you goon out while you surf the internet?
You know, some goons are very talented. Next question. To start, you need to be able to focus a bit. You need to be able to get to know your body. You also need to have lube. We recommend silicone because that stays slickest the longest, but whatever lube works for you.
Or like Popeye, get olive oil.
No, don't give olive oil. Many experts in gooning will say practice jerking off before you really get into a real session. Like, get yourself close and then come back down. Get yourself close and then come back down and learn your body and how it flows or gets into that proper space.
But do you need practice jerking off? How hard can it be?
Apparently only 20 minutes to 30 minutes at a time, Daddy. It's also important that you have the time set aside. Like anything, good things come in moderation. And you can go on a nice gooning session, but you have to make sure that it's not cutting into your personal life and actual obligations that you might have. So make sure you set that time aside. And some people even build like little caves where they have like monitors and they get comfy. That's like a goon cave is what they call it, where you have, you know, your monitors with your content or your erotica or the things that are stimulating you. You're in a comfortable spot. You have water or snacks to keep you going. Maybe you have some sort of heightened nitrates or pot, sometimes people include. But again, we want to make sure that you're doing this to the best of your ability and gooning responsibly and safely. A sentence I never thought I would have to say.
You just described everything that will put me to sleep.
Snacks, pot, comfort. Okay, maybe an energy drink? I don't know. Whatever makes it so you can get into that Zen space.
What if you put a mirror in your cave?
Some people might like that though.
Okay.
No, some people do need that that fixation in front of them, very much like hypno. If you're able to focus on something, that is able to stimulate you and kind of create this feedback loop. So maybe a mirror will work for you, you narcissist. Next one comes from Bondage Otter, who asks, my perception is that between typical masturbation and gooning isn't just the duration, but also substance use and what gets folks into the headspace. Would love to know if that hunch is generally accepted as true. When he says substance use, he means things that alter your headspace, maybe anal nitrates or things that get you into an altered zone. And while, yes, many people do that, there will be like loops or videos where it tells you, you know, like take a hit of your amyl nitrates or pot. and then start stroking or providing pleasure.
Stroke, 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 stroke.
It's not necessary.
So edging is not gooning, but gooning can involve edging.
Yeah, gooning uses tools like edging or even amyl nitrate to help you get into that headspace, get into that zen state. But I think that the misconception is it's just jerking off for a very long time. No, it's getting to know your body and get into a spiritual space where you're able to like have tantric sex or heightened sex. That is the point of gooning and baiting for long periods of times for a lot of people.
Gotcha.
Or how about Ray, who asks, what is it called when two gooners ride waves together, working each other up and chilling each other down, using mostly locked eye contact?
Awkward?
No, in fact, there's studies that show that couples looking at each other for long periods of time help to kind of work out awkwardness, but also to like make them laugh and get into a zone that helps them to communicate better. I'm not liking this right now.
See, I said awkward.
This is uncomfortable. This isn't awkward. Regardless of how many people are actively involved and engaged in the gooning session, this is called the zone, or even the flow state. This is their flow state. See, not so easy, is it? Let's give an example. Like, what is something that you can really get in the zone in and just totally like zone out?
Listening to you. That zones me out every time.
I think I found your problem, maybe. Focus.
You?
No, focus. Many seasoned gooners, which the term seasoned gooner really leads. Many seasoned gooners will talk about being in the zone almost like playing sports. When someone goes on a streak of just shooting ball after ball after ball, I realize the connotation there, and there's muscle memory to everything they're doing. In that state, you're able to kind of turn off the ejaculation part of your brain and focus just on the pleasure part. And that is when those people are really in the zone. That's why we call it the zone or the flow state. And I kind of like this question from Scruffy Boy because it gets into the safety categories, but also asks in a fun way. And they ask, what shouldn't you use to bait? Click bait.
Icy hot.
Icy hot?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Sandpaper.
Okay. Don't use things that are gonna dry out your skin, obviously. Water-based lubes, some oily things are gonna change like your body's composition.
Ivory soap.
No, don't use soap either. Okay. Get out of here.
Chastity gauges.
Oh, gooning with chastity. Interesting. Maybe.
That I could get into.
Okay. Honestly, what shouldn't you use? Your brain. Just turn it off. That's one way to get into a heightened state.
But how do you get the images that make you aroused?
You gotta build that connection, build those grooves, and like anything, we've talked about building grooves, you do have to do that in moderation, and you do it safely. So while this might be a fun kink and or fetish for you, just be responsible in how you're masturbating, what you're masturbating with, and why. But also set aside that time. Again, this is a long-term, varsity level in some ways, kink that you gotta build up to, and it is time consuming.
Very.
TikTok, TikTok, TikTok.
Oh, don't put on TikTok.
Oh yeah, don't put it on TikTok.
They'll ban you.
Though Goon Talk, I've seen some
Really?
Gooning Talk.
Can you do
where,
that?
where they make little subliminals and stuff. It's very similar to the long form hypno videos you'll find online. But it's like little subliminals that aren't
That just say you're a good boy.
cheeky. Yeah.
You're a good boy.
Take a nice deep breath
You're a good
in.
boy. And
You're
be
a good boy and stroke out.
Yeah.
Someone's probably finding this very sexy.
That could be hot.
Breathe in.
Who's a
and
good boy?
Like that subscribe button.
Who's a good boy?
Breathe in and leave a comment down below. Breathe in, and whether you're gooning or not, what's your safe word?
I'm gonna nut. That would be the perfect safe word because you don't
for
want
gooning,
to.
yeah, because you don't want to. You might not want to nut. Well, that's just it though. Eventually, you do want to nut, and it's the journey. You know, it's not the destination; it's the journey. Because you know you're gonna get there eventually, probably. But it's the journey, and that's what kind of makes gooning almost poetic in a way.
Poetic. Wow.
No?
You could read Edgar Allan Poe.
And lastly, I just also want to say that a lot of these questions are so centered around penises and dicks and men. Gooning, jerking off, finding that tantric sex or even meditative, nice sexual part of yourself is not specific to a gender or a sexuality or even a kink. But in this case, this is one kink that specifically focuses on that part, the pleasure, the fun, and the meditative state. So Dad, do you have any last minute words for gooners?
Yes. Different strokes for different folks.
And while it may not be your cup of tea, I think we can all appreciate and learn a little bit about the different parts of the sexual spectrum that we live on.
Whether you're a goon or a little spoon.
Oh, ooh, I want to cuddle and goon.
Wait, can you cuddle and goon?
Netflix and goon. Actually, get a movie marathon on. That's stimulating, and if it's the right kind of movies. And I'll say my last little bit is I think gooning gets a bad rep because sometimes there are substances used with it. Please goon responsibly. But it's also just this fun, silly, almost out-of-body experience that some people don't understand, and I think it's just about the non-stop carnal sex, when it's really about the nice body exploring, finding yourself, your sexuality, and what really turns you on. And it's all about how you look at it. So I hope and I challenge you guys to look at different kinks and sexualities today through a different lens. And while it might not be for you, it's definitely something that turns someone else on.
Yeah, I get that. We're all turned on by something a little bit different.
So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Leave a like down below, leave a comment, leave a subscription, and we will see y'all goons next time. Bye! Have you read an 8-day load though? Because Trixie and Katya just found out what that was a second ago.
I have an 8-day load. What is, girl?
No, that's poop. There's poop in there.
Is that what?
Oh, you mean like...
That's a whole nother thing.